All right, we're now live. Kevin, you're still muted.
Is there a way we can see them?
Yeah, I can change it, but I'm more worried about the fact that I can't hear him.
Okay.
I don't know what Tiffany did different, to be honest with you.
Okay, it is what it is.
Yeah, she set it up.
Okay.
But we can't hear him, so we can't move forward. I don't know if I can message. Kevin, is your mic, can you hear me? I can't hear you, so I'm wondering if you're muted. I can't hear you. Aaron, can you unmute your mic and say something so I can see if I can hear you? I can't hear Aaron either. That has nothing to do with it.
Want me to call her?
Yeah, please. All right, if everybody can just bear with me, I'm not sure what's going on, but we're having technical difficulties.
When is this going to end?
I don't see anywhere where we... Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'd call Stu, too.
He left. We can call.
But he actually answers his phone after. I mean, we might just have to cancel the meeting. I don't.
Let me try to do it here real quick. See if you can talk us through it.
Like, I don't see how I can change anything that they're doing. Like, I can mute them, but the fact that we can't hear them, unless it's just, no, the volume's all the way up. All the volumes look like they're normal.
My picture is at the bottom of the screen. Do I have to hit something to bring it up?
This board meeting and we're having trouble with audio.
I can see you.
Talk to
Oh,
Lucas,
okay.
see if you want.
And I can hear you too.
Yeah, we all can hear each other except Elizabeth can't.
I know.
You know,
I
if you look,
I'm working
you
through
can
it.
click on.
Everybody can hear
there's a
us. We
hide
can't hear.
participants
Can you hear?
Or list them.
So everybody can
And-
hear us, and they can hear each other on the video, but we can't hear anything in the room, the conference room, the commission chambers. Exactly. So like we've tested with Aaron because we know, that he knows and he unmuted himself and we can't hear. But you can hear me, like when I'm talking in the microphone. Michelle's here. Yeah. Like, you mean from the back room? Yes. We just moved to the conference room?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. We'll see if she can get it going, and if not, we just.
It's blue,
Right,
but
right.
then, and before I pressed it and it like went, but then it seems to like automatically go back to that. Okay, okay. Just got to test and see.
Hello?
No, it was asked like Kevin.
Kevin, can you talk?
Me? Yep.
Oh,
We're
there
good.
we go.
We got it. All right, we're good.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right.
All right.
We're back.
Can we have a motion to approve the minutes from the January meeting?
So moved.
Who said that, please?
Harrison.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
And who's second, please?
Steve.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are good.
Kevin,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to comment if you would. I
Okay.
noticed here under new business at the last meeting, yours truly was nominated and voted as the chair, to continue as the chair. And right now, I appreciate the confidence that everyone showed, and was a unanimous ballot. I plan to continue as long as I possibly can. I'm only mentioning this because I'm experiencing some health problems discovered out of a regular examination, didn't know I had them. And probably next week, I believe it's about next Wednesday or Thursday, I'll know pretty much the procedure they're going to follow in trying to get things corrected. But I just wanted to mention that I appreciate the confidence shown, and I'll serve as long as I possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mr. Reverend Darden. We're happy to have you here today, and certainly we value the service you've provided to the city all these years and look forward to continued involvement. What's our old business for today?
You have approval of the minutes you just finished. You have the treasurer's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michelle Reeder, the Finance Director. Just want to report the basics of the financials. The general fund revenue for the cemetery for the first quarter of 2021 is $31,631, which is 26% of what we budgeted for the year. So being that we're 1 quarter of the way to the year, 26%, we're above target at the moment. So that's good news on the revenue. On the expenditures, we've expended $46,571. Again, this is through March 31st. And the great news on this one is that that's only 16% of our budget. So we're in good shape there. We do have seasonal employees that'll be coming on here for the summer months to help with the care of the cemetery. So we will see the expenditures increase in the second half or the second quarter of the year. On our endowment funds, we were able to add about $24,000 in cash balance to the endowment funds so far on the first quarter of the year. The year-to-date expenses were $1,900, and the revenue for the endowments was just over $28,000. So everything's going in the right direction there. We're still monitoring, and anytime that we can use the endowment for a specific purpose, we'll look at those funds and see what's available and if it's a viable use of the funds. But that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address anything.
Okay. Do we have any comments on the treasurer's report?
Harrison Smith here. It's finally looks like that we're making progress in the right direction. I hope that we continue to do this through the rest of this year and the coming years. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any action you wish to take on the report?
Mr. Chairman, Harrison Smith,
Yes.
I move that we accept the treasurer's report as presented. And if we have any questions, we can get back with her and discuss those problems or questions with her.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We've heard the motion on the treasurer's report. Are there any comments, any support?
I'll second it here, Steve.
Thank you. Those in favor will vote for aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. The report is accepted. Let us move to our cemetery manager's report.
Excuse me. All right, the current open spaces, I made a count. We have 3,852. I know that probably doesn't sound like a lot, but we can go double depth. That adds more people into a space, 3 people per gray space. That also adds. And again, that's just in the ground. That's not counting a new mausoleum as well as a niche, another niche or two. So I mean, again, I think that's gonna take quite a few years to reach that. So I'm going through that and everything else. I think we're good. Restoration of the 50 gray spaces with that is telling us is we refilled, leveled, seeded, and strawed from the winter months of graves that needed taken care of. Right now, every grave in the cemetery is seeded. I mean, everything's ready to go there. Our seasonal, we're not looking for them until the second week of May. Both of them are in Florida right now, and they'll be back in second week of May. And again, cancellation of Memorial Day, it happened again. So another year of no Memorial Day. They will do something with the flags, and but that's about it. That's all that I've heard, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Dan, I was looking in the minutes from a previous meeting. You mentioned that you had used the chapel, and I had it here. And there was no comments, even though we did have okay, here we go. After the fee increase for the chapel, there have been 2 services held in the chapel without any comments about increase in fee.
Right. Nobody said nothing. They were fine. They had a service in there. They paid the $100 and they were fine. They had no problems at all with that.
Good.
So that worked out well.
I would imagine, well, during the summer, they probably will not use it as much, but in the following year, we'll have the.
Right, they probably won't, but you never know. Sometimes they do for a service because, again, they want to have the showing, so they won't do that outside. Sometimes they do, but more than likely they'll go into chapel.
Very good, very good. Any comments on the manager's report?
Harrison Smith, I have a comment or a question. You
Yes,
said that many years to come before you run out of spaces. Approximately how many years do you foresee
I mean,
before?
it's hard to say. Some years were like last year we were up in burials, but still being up in burials, that was only like 145, I think it was, for a season. I mean, that's not many. I bet 50, 60 plus. I mean, years. I mean, that's 3,000. That's a lot. You know, that's a lot of them. But again, that's not counting a new mausoleum, more niches. More people are going to cremations. We had more cremations last year than in the past years. So that helps too. Plus putting 3 people per grave space as well as going double depth as well. This all helps. It'll make it last.
Thank you.
Yes. Dan, I know we talked some time ago about double depth. Is there any particular area where this is recommended, or in particular area where you do not recommend?
Yeah, section V is the 3/4 of section V. I'd say from the middle of it to the east end, that will never be double depth. It's just,
Marsh?
yeah, it's bad. And I would say section P and Q are 2 other ones because it's got a lot of gray clay in it. And honestly, going down that deep and you got somebody next to you, I'd be worried about that caving in and that. So there are a couple areas that are no-nos. So, but other than that, everything else is pretty good.
So even though we have some open space, there is some open space where we do not recommend double depth burial.
Right, and it's usually, I'll go out and look at the area and look at what's around us and I'll determine whether we are allowed to go double depth or not.
Okay.
So-
I see we have a task force. Will they be looking at this?
I'm not sure if they're not prior to that. They're just kind of like more promoting the cemetery and trying to get it out there. Scott will talk about that next.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Steve Toft. I have a question for Dan. Hey, Dan, where are we at with construction of a new mausoleum or anything like that? Because the lack of crypts available out there, I've had 2 families that went elsewhere this week because of the lack of crypts that we have available.
We're still looking into it. That's all I know of right now.
That's under our old business. If we want to move on to that, I can touch base on that.
Okay. That'll come under the old business?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Then why don't we call for old business at this time?
Well,
Okay, so under old business, we have the cemetery task force. So we met about a month ago. We talked about improving getting out on social media, promoting the cemetery as a city of Sandusky, not just Oakland. We talked about a city seal at the entrance by the sign to show, passerbys with vehicles on 250 there that this is a city cemetery, city of Sandusky. We also talked of ways of how to increase our income, like you were talking about, maybe double depth would be one. We talked about future additions as far as niches, mausoleums, how that would improve and be able to sustain the cemetery over time and bring in more income to help with our finances. So we talked about a wide range of ways to do this. We kind of brainstormed. We'd like to set up a meeting here probably the next couple months, 2 to 3 months, give everybody a chance to digest and understand and come up with ways of how we can do this or ideas. So it was a good first meeting, and we need to follow up and get everybody back to. I know Mr. Murray's in Florida. He'll be coming back, so we'll get everybody back together and then we'll have another meeting.
Oh, very good, very good.
And then on to the new mausoleum. That will be a capital project. So right now, I think Aaron's Megan under engineering is reaching out to different vendors to find out, what it would be a cost, what size, what would fit in the footprint of the cemetery in the areas that we have. Taking into consideration what Dan says, like the higher, and I think that's on the list that Dan had on open spaces, is the higher you are in a mausoleum, the less attractive they are to sell those. So maybe keeping it lower to the ground is more appealing to people coming in to look at that. So we're trying to consider all different variables in that and trying to come up with something that would fit well in the cemetery and be appealing to future, families.
You haven't looked at any particular site yet?
No, we're still looking at sizes and heights and, just the whole footprint of it and where it would fit best and how it would kind of fit into what we already have.
Okay.
So we're looking at a whole wider range of things and then finding out who can do it and, getting prices on that also. And the finance part of how we're gonna pay for it. So I know there's, I think St. Mary's had one where they did a pre-sale. They're, I think, adding a mausoleum and they're doing a little pre-sale to the mausoleum to kind of pay for it up front. So, we're looking at all options of how we can do it and afford to do it too.
Yes, Phil. I'm sure that would be included in your recommendation. Probably do a little market study on that, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Steve, or?
Yeah, that's more of just, I just know that, spaces of the crypts are very limited and I think we really need to move forward on that somehow.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Okay. Then we have, we move on to new business.
So under that, and we've had a couple instances where, and I wanted to mention it to the board and kind of give, I talked to Dan a little bit, give our opinions on it, and then open it up for your guys' opinions or ideas. But we have, so we've had people come back that have purchased a grave site, maybe, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15 years. We don't have, in our rules and regulations right now, we have how it can be transferred if someone passes away, but we don't really have anything in there as far as reimbursement, like if they want to, give it back to us or sell it back to us, how to approach that. I know we did, Elizabeth did some research on it, and in Dayton, there's a cemetery that they actually gift back that grave site, and it can be, it can be tax exempt and it can be a benefit to them as far as giving it back as a contribution. So that's an option that we could do, but we don't really have anything in there to where we actually would say yes or no, like they can sell it back to us for what they purchased us for. We don't have any wording in our rules and regulations. So, and I want everybody to keep in mind, like when they do this, this might be one particular grave site in a row of many others that they're looking to sell back. So it kind of puts us in a position where it might be a unique to where only one person could buy that spot and not be like, buried by a loved one. So just trying to consider the best option for this. I kind of like the idea of it being gifted back to us. And they can purchase another one wherever they would like. Just kind of open it up to see what your guys' thoughts are on this.
That's interesting. Any comments? Any thoughts on this?
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Zier here. I think it's advantageous to see if we can assist a citizen that wants to return a grave space. I like the idea of providing some kind of tax incentive for doing that, but also giving them the opportunity to buy another space, maybe at a lower price than what we might sell it otherwise. And I think, all those things are good ideas.
Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate any problems relative to family relations, being buried in a particular area where other family members are?
Possibly. I mean, you mean if they gift it back to us, if someone else would want to be buried there that won't be part of that family, that is where I think that's where you come into, I kind of wanted to bring it to your guys' attention and kind of get your guys' idea, because I think that could be a bit of a situation, because it might only be a single person,
Yes.
buried there. So, I mean, it's open to anybody once it's not sold and it's there to be sold, anybody can buy it. So I don't think we could actually say, no, you can't purchase it because it's within
Right, right.
that area or that family row. Maybe we reach out to the family and say, is anybody willing to purchase that within that family in that row?
Yes. Because you're absolutely right. We wouldn't be able to refuse to sell it to someone.
Correct.
We could probably let that family know that this space is available if they want to purchase
Right.
it.
When somebody wants to sell it back, I usually ask them, are you sure nobody in the family wants to buy that grave? I always ask that first question I ask, are you sure someone down the line, sometimes they say, go get back with me and let me know. And then when they come back, it's usually no, if they're going to sell it back. Sometimes people are selling it back and they're buying another one. That's the other thing they do. They'll buy something bigger or more grave spaces.
Then why don't we get busy and work this out and make sure we work out the wording,
Right.
so that we won't be in violation.
Well, the most recent one, I had a conversation, or Dan did with them, and said, like, since we don't have it in the rules and regulations, we don't want to go ahead and refund, but you're more welcome to buy another one, and he chose to buy another one. So it didn't stop him from purchasing another gravesite.
Yeah. Do we have very much of an individual selling a grave space to another individual?
We don't allow that.
No, we don't allow that. That's in the rules.
But you
It
can
can't.
transfer a deed.
Yeah, you can
For
transfer
family.
through family, yes, but we can't. Somebody can't come in and buy a whole row and then sell it to whoever.
Yeah,
They can't do that.
I know what you're saying. We know it did happen some time ago, and we think we got everything in place to prevent that from happening.
Right.
Because the case that we had was the gentleman was moving to Tulsa, and he sold it to an individual, He was leaving it, but he sold it himself, and I think that's what caused us to take the action that we did. So we have to be very careful with that.
I mean, I'm understanding of the situation. It's just, I feel like if they gift it back, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, they
Yeah.
get a tax incentive, like Kevin said, and they also get to buy a grave site where they,
Okay.
if they want to move somewhere else.
We might want to call, who was it, Dayton you spoke to, and see how they've handled these kind of issues?
Yeah, Woodland in Dayton. Yep. Okay, we'll reach out.
Okay. We get our eager beavers in the mind, get it worked out. Okay, thank you.
So-
And the task force will be working on that also, right?
No, we'll work on that. Dan and I and Elizabeth will work on that and get an answer back to you on what
Okay.
Woodland does and what our suggestion would be.
Okay.
Or recommendation. The next one is internet sales and policies and procedures. So right now, and I was not aware of it, Dan brought it to my attention, and we talked about it, and I got more up to speed on it, is right now you can actually go on the internet and buy a headstone. And people are purchasing these headstones through the internet, and then they are having them sent to their house, and then we had an individual drop it off at the cemetery. Now, normally, to give you a little backstory, is normally when we have these headstones made, I think specifically, and Dan could add if we, other places, but Valconia in specific, makes headstones, they come out, we put the foundation down, they install the headstone on that foundation as part of their service for making the headstone. It's all incorporated in the price. With these internet sales is they are wanting to drop it off to us and us to install it. We don't install these and we don't want to get into the business of installing them. If they want to work something out, this is my recommendation, is they want to work something out with a local seller of headstones and, work something out to where they pay them to come out to the cemetery and install them, that's fine, but we don't want to get into the business simply because we don't have time to do it. And then if that headstone gets damaged or broken or whatever during installation, then it would be on us. And we haven't done that before. I don't think it would be a good idea to do it now or to start doing it now. But I did want it to bring it to the board and get your, make everybody aware of what's going on, number one, and then get, let you guys, weigh in on thoughts.
I think your approach is correct.
sorry.
We don't want to install them. And if you can find a local headstone supplier that wants to install it, that's good, but I don't know that they would want to either. They're losing a sale, so I don't know.
Oh, they
Mr.
won't,
Chairman, do we
they
have-
won't do it.
Pardon?
Balcones will not do an internet. They will not lay it out there.
Okay.
No, they said absolutely not.
Do we have any requirements relative to the installation?
We don't, no, we don't, this is what, no, we don't have anything specifically that says that in our
They can
rules
come out and
regulations,
install it.
but
We have any specifications relative to the installation?
No, Balcones has, in other vendors that have come out and done that as part of their, build, or, making the headstone as part of their service. So we don't have anything in there that states, how they do it or a certain way, but what they do is they epoxy it down. They make it in there so it doesn't move or fall over. But the other thing is, we don't want individuals coming out to the cemetery and installing themselves either. Like, that's a liability issue for them to be working on our grounds, installing something. So we don't want them to do it.
No.
And we don't want to be part of that. That needs to really be continued going through the contract.
Then maybe we need to, do we have some regulations where an individual cannot themselves install it?
There's nothing in there that says specifically that they can't install it, no.
Should we have some?
Harrison Smith. I think that the board needs to come up with a strict set of regulations or rules as to who can and who cannot install a headstone in the cemetery. Like was said before, some of those headstones can get quite enormous, and somebody just off the street come in there with a wreck or something like that, they could really do a lot of damage to the grounds if they were turned loose. I think that that's a very serious problem that we're going to have if we don't come up with something to put an end to people off the street installing headstones. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Harrison. I think maybe the building department could give us an idea what kind of foundation we would need for a headstone, depending on the size, its height, its weight, and, it's like building a house almost. You don't want it falling over, and you certainly don't want a headstone falling on somebody that's visiting another person that's buried in the cemetery. So.
But I think too, we need to have something where we specifically forbid an individual from coming in, installing the headstone.
Yeah. I understand.
Mr. Chairman, Harrison Smith here.
What I'm thinking is, if I want to install a headstone, there's nothing in our regulations that said I can't do it.
Yep.
Am I right?
Yeah, there is, but I've never had anybody, usually what people do, they'll get a little headstone and they'll go put it out on the grave. They don't even put a foundation out on it. So then I'll have to pick it up and
Yeah.
write a little note or something, and then they'll call me and ask me where it was, and then I talk to them about it. But that's been, I think I've had maybe 2 of those in the past 19 years that's happened.
I think now it's mainly the
It's-
internet sales.
it's more the internet,
That-
yes.
And since it is becoming, it seems to be coming from what, talking with Dan, is it's more popular than it was, obviously.
Especially this year. It's
So
bad.
we definitely want to bring it to your attention and let you know, because we have turned people away. So if they do, come to one of you and mention what's going on, you're aware of what we're doing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Harrison Smith
Yes,
here.
yes, sir.
I have been looking around for headstones because of the passing of my wife recently, and a lot of those headstone companies on the internet, they have in first of their sales pitch language that states that you need to check with the cemetery's rules and regulations and what you can do and what you can't do. Another thing that might be advisable is someone has to get a permit, put a headstone in there, and it be part of the building inspector to inspect that foundation or whatever before they're allowed to put that stone on top of it. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that we use a procedure where they would need a permit in order to install the headstone?
Right. The companies such as Balcones or any other monument companies around could be on a list maybe where they didn't have to go through this permit sequence because they do this all the time and they're approved.
Brett Belcoli told me there in Cleveland, there's a lawsuit going on right now that some company, a cemetery was putting these headstones out there, and the monument companies have lawsuits going against them right now for doing that. So, I mean, my whole thing is, you know, we got to take care of these people, the monument companies that are around here, and I'd rather not do those at all. Or to have them put it out there and take a chance at falling, breaking it, and trying to blame us, or who knows what they could do.
No, we certainly don't want to get involved in,
You're right.
I would think, installing headstone. Not only is it risky, it's also time consuming.
Well, yeah, again, you don't know what they're going to put out there. I mean, I've seen some, oh, jeez.
But I think we should have something that states it's not allowed.
Oh, yeah. Because right now, I'm just telling people we don't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
and I'm not sure that's enough.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to restrict the installation of any headstones by anyone but the local memorial companies that do it, and leave it at that.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I think we have heard that motion. It's been discussed and made clear. Are there any other comments? If not, those in favor would vote aye.
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 And those opposed,
Aye.
the motion carried. Thank you. Do we have anything else to come before the commission?
Mr. Chairman, Harrison Smith.
Yes, sir.
I was approached a few days ago about from somebody about the condition of the grass mowing out there. What I understand is that a lot of this grass mowing is done by the seasonal employees that's coming in. This is an exceptionally early spring that we're having, but Mother Nature doesn't look at, you know, that grass is going to grow whether it's May 1st or not. Is there some way that we could get these seasonal employees in here a little bit sooner to start on this grass mowing and keep up with it like that? Or is this just a fluke year where they're not available until after May 1st?
Both of them are in Florida right now, and they won't start till the second week of May. We're trying to keep 2 people out mowing every day if it's not a burial or something else. Lori and myself were mowing I was mowing all day, and she was mowing until she leaves at 1 o'clock. So I can't have 3 of us. Tim has foundations to do, and them are way behind. So if it's not burials, he's doing foundations, and I'm mowing grass. I mean, right now, that's all we can do until those 2 come in second week of May.
Is there some way that we could get the seasonal employees to start a little earlier, or are they college kids?
They're in Florida. They're not back until the second week. And both these, the one guy's been here for 5 years, I think, and the other one's been here. This will be the second year. So again, it's kind of nice getting these guys. They come to work, they do their job.
They're both retirees
Yeah.
that come back and weed whip and mow through the summer months. We were looking to, we budgeted to start them in April. We reached out to them hoping that they would come in April, but they're both not getting back in town until mid-May. So Dan and I, we're still looking for a seasonal to maybe fill that gap from now until they get back. We just haven't had any luck in finding seasonal. I think it's a national thing where it's hard to find seasonal workers or workers in general right now. So we've definitely been putting the word out. We just haven't had luck right now.
Well, we was talking a while ago about developing the cemetery or promoting the cemetery to the public. One thing a lot of people look at is how well it's kept, and to let the grass grow up and not keep it mowed is don't look good. I realize that it's the circumstances that we can't control, but we need to look in the future to try to control it.
So you're having difficulty right now finding
Well,
seasonal.
again, the kids they're still in school and then they don't last anyway. They want more money, so, and then usually the young kids beat up the equipment pretty bad as well. But it's just tough right now. And the grass is growing,
And it will not
Today, I
wait.
think tomorrow we'll have at least ever gone through at least once the whole cemetery, it's good, but don't get me wrong, it's still long. Some areas are higher than the others. So we're doing the best we can.
Mr. Chairman, this is Steve Toth. Just a comment. I just think in the future, maybe we need to get these seasonal people to be hired earlier because the grass starts growing, even in March now. So we need to keep up with the grass so we don't get behind. So I think you need to look at hiring these seasonals earlier in the year and maybe not letting, if they can't stay as long because of the budget, that's fine. But you need them when the grass starts growing so you don't get behind.
These two gentlemen from,
They're retired.
they're retirees.
I can try to call one, Gary, and see if I can get him in a maybe, but I think maybe it'd be earliest probably be the beginning of May. I mean, we're at the end of April right now, so it's a couple of weeks yet, but I could call him and see if he can any chance of starting earlier.
All these fellows you see around cutting grass, are they doing it by contract?
Yeah.
They doing that by contract?
Yeah, well, they'd be blasting our headstones and everything else if we put them out there.
Yeah.
Because that one year back, Nicole Ard tried to bring I can't remember what it was, but they brought a crew in, and between blasting the headstones, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah. And they don't get it done either, so. We'll just have to look into that for next year, maybe making sure we get somebody earlier. But it's, like Scott said, it's hard to get anybody, period. They don't want to work. It's hard to get somebody to come in and whip grass and mow grass, for $11 an hour. A lot of them don't want to do that, especially the younger ones.
That's where we are now, $11 an hour.
Is that what it is, about 11?
Yeah, we've been covering, we have a range. I mean, they can come in up to 13. We have to where we bring them in, and if they, are good workers, then we can increase, but yeah.
I see. And they're on their own, no benefits in terms of if they're injured out there.
Well, the city, the city has workers' comp, but yes, I mean, we don't want anybody to get injured, so.
Yeah, I understand,
We have our
but-
safety procedures in place, so.
What can happen will happen, Okay. Anything further? If we don't have anything further, I guess we've exhausted our agenda. So a meeting for adjournment is in order.
So moved, Harrison Smith.
Second, Deb Volz.
Been moved that we adjourn the meeting. Next meeting, July 28th.
Mr. Chairman, Harrison Smith.
Pardon me?
It's Harrison Smith. Is there any forethought being given to where we can